First, I would like to ask you a question. How many of you have teenagers at home? Do those teenagers have a narrow view on immigration? No. All right. Well, to our knowledge, most teenagers have a narrow view on immigration. Yeah, yeah. So, to our knowledge, they have this narrow view, and this has effects on the immigrants because teenagers mostly don't have very much compassion with immigrants, and this is a really big problem because then they don't treat immigrants as well as they should, and some immigrants actually go through quite a lot to get to America. And so we created this game to teach young people about immigration and what people actually go through, in hopes that they someday might be able to help change the immigration system for the better. So if you haven't already guessed, our topic is immigration, and we've focused more on immigration from Mexico to the US. And then we have a little demo of our game. So here we are at the bar in the game, and here you actually have to make a choice. You have to make a choice whether you want to immigrate in a legal way or in an illegal way. And both have pros and cons. So here I'm just gonna take the illegal way, because it's a bit shorter. And we go talk to this guy, and we get some conversation up here. So there's a bit of conversation on how Jose, our main character, actually talks to Joe on how he could join the gang, and they would help him get to the USA. And then we end up, he has to prove himself worthy to join the gang, so he has to fight Joe. So we fight, and he says, "Alright, kid, you have proved yourself worthy. You can travel with us." And so you actually won the game, and here's an ending. This is one of the two endings we have so far. So Jose actually ends up going to America, and he gets medical help for his sister, who is sick, and he saves her with no, there's no damage done to her. She's all fine. But by doing this, he has actually killed some people, and he has also been beaten up himself. There we go. So the story synopsis. Jose is an 18-year-old boy who lives alone with his sister, who then becomes deadly ill. And then Jose has to go to America to get some medical help for her, and he has to make choices on how he will get to America, and this will affect the outcome of the game. So for example, you saw with the illegal way, she was fine, but he shot some people and killed some people going to America. But if you choose the legal way, she would end up being paralyzed from her legs and in her legs, because she didn't get the medicine in time. Uh-oh. There we go.
And the key features in our game is educating teens about immigrants. And this is because, as we said earlier on, in Denmark, people don't know that much about immigration. And we want to achieve this by educating them through this game. And with the story, put a new point of view on the illegal immigration. And the categories in our game is education, political, and humanitarian. And this plays the fact that our game is educating teens, and there's a lot of political issues about illegal immigration. And the humanitarian part shows off that we want teens to have this feeling with Joe or Jose with why he does the things he does. And that's the game attention, the feelings. And we want to get teens have a new point of view and get some new information and knowledge about legal immigration.
Okay, so this game is an 8-bit indie game, and it doesn't take more than an hour to complete. We did this because we wanted to get the message across to as many people as possible, and not everybody has the spare time to sit down and play a full game that takes like 8 or 9 hours. And it can also be played in school if you want to teach the kids something about immigration. You interact with the game by using your WASD keys, and you control the little guy around. It's a serious RPG game, and the storyline depends on whether or not you choose the illegal or the legal way to immigrate to the US.
So actually, the thing about our game design is that we actually want to get away from this people not seeing this stereotype about, for example, Mexicans. But in our game, we actually use a lot of stereotypes. For example, our guy's character's name is Jose, which is a very stereotypical Mexican name.
We chose a 8-bit style pixel art because it was effective and easy to create with the skill set and the tools we had. Also, pixel art doesn't look that dangerous, or what you would call it. When, for example, the fighting scene where people are beating each other up with the crowbars, it doesn't look as brutal as it could have been. Also, our targeted audience are used to seeing pixel art in the games that they play normally. For example, a lot of them play small games on their mobile devices where pixel art are very common.
Okay, audio. In the demo you saw earlier, we have some sound effects. You couldn't hear them because the volume was turned down, but we have basically 2 sound effects in the fighting scene. One of them is a swoosh sound, and the other one is a punching sound. They should match the actions to Jose and Joe when they fight. So when they punches but misses, there's a swoosh sound. But when they hits, there's a swoosh sound followed by an impact sound. The inspiration for the background music was to find some very classic Mexican music, and we did, but it was way too stereotypical. You couldn't hear it, but it was some very stereotypical mariachi music, and that has to be fixed. So that's something we will do later on, because it can seem counterproductive to the message we're trying to send to the players.
Yeah, and the program we used to make this game is called Construct 2, and it uses the HTML, also called Hypertext Markup Language, and Java to create it. And we use it for the PC platform because of educational reasons. And our market is high school students and college students, and this is because they a lot of time get the wrong picture of immigrants, and they need to learn about the harsh realities. And the reason is that our PEGI rating is 12+.
Now it's time for questions and answers.
So one of the things when you're creating a game like this one is context. How would you show the context of the drug war and the fact that the United States is the one who essentially created it and continues to create it and require its existence because of the demand for illegal drugs in the United States?
Well, this would come to show in an early cutscene, for example, where you could see how Jose actually ended up where he is at the start of the game. For example, by showing his parents were a part of this drug war and how they died during in this drug war.
Well, I understand like how you would show like they died in the drug war, but the context for the drug war, because most people don't realize it's the United States that's created the situation initially. How would you show something that happened, essentially started about 30 or 40 years ago, before his parents were probably even born?
Would be some, for example, you could show it as a way in Star Wars, for example, where they have this floating text about how all this came to be before you end up in the action. That might be one way to show it.
So I know you only had time to do like one scenario, one A or B choice, but what were some other scenarios that y'all had talked about or thought about, showing different, choices that Jose could make?
We actually really only talked about those two choices we have because we had only talked about it as the demo. So the other choice was to immigrate legally, where he gets the medical help for his sister, but because it takes a long time to immigrate to the U.S., she actually get paralyzed from the waist on down.
So if you choose the illegal way, you go into a little combat segment, right? And that takes over the gameplay. Do you have gameplay for the legal option, or is it just going in there and you choose that, and then it just triggers another series of dialogue? Or do you have like gameplay that you had planned on? I know you just said
We
planned
had
on the demo.
planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, our plan was to, if he chose the legal way, he would have to get money to get across the border and just to get money. And the illegal way, he would also have to get money, but it would be more of like robbing and stuff like that. And the legal way would be getting some fast money from selling some of his belongings or his mother's and his dad's belongings that still have a home, because they probably wouldn't come back.
And you also would have to take the immigration test. Or, I don't know if it's a test like that, but you know what I mean. Any other questions?
So I have one more question, sorry.
Sure.
Like, so you're really wanting teenagers in the States to empathize with this character and his journey. How are you planning on making, like, if I'm a teenager, let's say I don't care, playing Minecraft all day, like, how are you going to make them feel invested in this character's journey? How are you going to say, like, you know, this kid is just like you know, and make them, humanize them?
If you look at Facebook, sometimes people post that they have a sick family member, and that's the same we're trying to achieve here. If people get to know that Jose's sister is sick, they kind of feel sad for him, because if he does this legally, it'll be too late and she will be paralyzed. But if he does it illegally, he will get to save his sister, and that's kind of what we're trying to do.
So you're going to have scenarios where you actually interact with the sister?
Yeah.
So why did you not make it brutal? I mean, you're trying to show something that is brutal. Why did you choose to make it not brutal?
I'm just going to answer this question quickly because we're out of time. So the reason why we made it brutal is because, for example, we don't want 12-year-olds to actually see blood and gore in our game. We're thinking of it as a more educational purpose and not so much for the brutal entertainment in it. So this is all we have time for. I hope this got you thinking about some of this stuff, and I hope you would like to help out with this. Thanks.